Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Casey. Join with me, as always, is my partner in crime, Sam Glenn. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Casey. Doing great. Excited for the episode today. We've got a we've got a very special guest, friend of the show.
Friend of the show, we met him through SuperCon, which we do the film festival with, and Tony Fleecs has been with SuperCon. How long have you been with going to SuperCon in Sioux Falls?
I don't even know. I've been to most of them through, 5 years. How many have there been?
This will be
Seven, right?
it's been 7. This will be the 8th.
I know I did one where it was just online.
Yeah.
I've done the two most recent ones post-COVID.
Yeah. Did you do the year before we were online?
I think I did the year before as well.
So.
I never did it when it wasn't at the convention center. I don't think.
So probably 5 years then, because the
Yeah.
first 2 years were in that hotel.
No, I think
basement.
I did one where that was in a hotel ballroom too, unless it was just in like a different room. The first year, I know. Vishnu Bunny brought me out the very first time I went, and I was tabled there. The Goach, he came and sat next to me, and they put out Vishnu Bunny T-shirts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I think that might have been at unless they just didn't used to always have us in like that big room in the convention center. Anyway, many times,
almost all the times.
yeah. A majority of the times.
So friend of the show, Tony, is here. We're talking Army of Darkness Forever and his latest Feral, which is it like a direct sequel to Stray Dogs, or is it set in the same universe type of thing?
It's more of like a spiritual sequel. It's just doing the same style of comics that we did with Stray Dogs, while telling a whole different story, different characters. It may be in the same universe, but I always say that I don't. It's not like the Stray Dogs are going to show up because there's a horrible rabies outbreak, and we don't want to put those dogs through any other
trauma.
They've been through enough.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You. So this transition from Stray Dogs to Feral. Tell us a little bit about what Feral is and what the idea was for the sister, for essentially like a sister series or spiritual sequel to Stray Dogs.
I think sister series works. I think of cats as girls. I think we all do.
Yeah.
No, we were working on Stray Dogs, and we had written it. I mean, I had written it as a 5-issue finished story. Like spoilers, but when you get to the end of it, there's no more threat at the end of Stray Dogs. Like the Stray Dogs live to, lay around and lick their own asses another day. And but it was a finished story, and we knew that if it did well enough, we wanted to do these little short stories about each of the dogs. Then we did that. That was Dog Days. That was like the actual follow-up. And then while we were working on that, we were like, gosh, this is really going well. People really like this. Like, they're responding to it in a way that, like, way more than we even hoped. And we loved working together, me and Trish and Tone Rodriguez and Brad Simpson, the colorist. And so we wanted to just figure out a way to do, to continue doing it, but we didn't want to just do more Stray Dogs because I really like, I love it when there's a movie that's great and there's not a sequel to it, or a book that's great and it's not part of a series, or, just like, I like it when something can stand on its own and just be like this concentrated burst of something cool. And I felt like that's what Stray Dogs was. And I even felt like even doing the follow-up miniseries, we're sort of pushing our luck a little bit, like there's a chance you can make this less cool if you do too much to it. But we knew we wanted to keep doing stuff like this, and we wanted to figure out like what's a way to do a bigger, longer story in this style. And so we started thinking about like what we could do that would be like the same vein but completely different. So the first thing we thought was like, all right, well, let's do cats. And then we start thinking about like, well, what's different about cats? And so it's like, all right, well, they don't have short memories like dogs. Our cats will have like, they'll be able to like hold on to things, hold on to grudges. They'll be able to be stubborn, like the sort of like using cats' personalities to sort of base the idea on that they don't forget things like dogs do. And then we thought about all right, well, Stray Dogs takes place indoors. Let's do something that takes place outdoors. And Stray Dogs has one villain. Let's do something that has a lot of villains. And the idea of like a zombie story seemed like the coolest way to do it. Like let's take these cats and put them in, I guess sort of like Zombie 2 or, I'm trying to think of like a forest zombie story, basically like put them in The Walking Dead, put them in 28 Days Later. And so that was sort of how it all, the idea of it came about was just like, we wanted to keep working together, but we didn't want to repeat ourselves while also sort of repeating ourselves, like we wanted to still do this kind of comic, but not do anything that made Stray Dogs less special,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, what I find awesome about Stray Dogs, and hopefully when I get my hands on Feral, which I have had my hands on it, and I flipped through it.
In stores now already.
It is, and what I love is like the balance that you find with like something like having dogs as your main character, or now with feral cats, is you're not afraid to put them in danger, but also you know when to pull back of like, hey, this might be where we're going too far. And showing what's going on. We're going to show some of it, but we're not going to show everything. We're going to leave some of it to up to the imagination. Where did you find that balance of like, hey, this is what we're actually going to show and put these dogs through, versus, hey, this is where we're going to start to pull back?
It's a case by case. I mean, basically, like I write the story as if I'm writing any story, and I try not to think about how cute and lovable and like adorable the characters are, because I sort of underestimate it, because you almost get desensitized to it when you're in the process of making it, right? Like we design these characters, Patch has a little tuft of hair on the top of his head. I was like, maybe he should have a tuft of hair, like these type of things where it's just like, by the time they get to you, they're like these fully realized adorable cats, but we've been there the whole time making them. And we have like a different kind of attachment to them, but it's not the kind of attachment where we're. I guess I underestimate how worried people get about the cats,
Yeah.
And so I'm not even writing with that in mind. I'm just writing it as if it's like a zombie story. And then when the artwork starts to come in, or even sometimes when it's just in the outline or in the writing, that's when you sort of think about it, like, how fucked is this going to be? Like how, like, so sometimes you definitely step back and you go like, okay, well, let's take it easy here. And then there are other times where you're like, we want to establish that the stakes are here. And so let's just go for it and take a shot. And if it is a disaster, and if everyone stops reading the book, then that sucks. But it feels like people like horror stories because they like the danger of it. They like to get hooked in. And obviously you're playing with fire when they're so adorable, but also, I feel like people can remove themselves enough to go like, well, there are drawings, Yeah. It's not even like a Cannibal Holocaust thing where you're just like, how could they? It's
right.
It's like, I mean, that was crazy for them to do that, but in the end of the day, no cats were harmed.
Yeah. So, can we talk a little bit about Army of Darkness Forever, which is an ongoing series that you're writing? Casey and I have both read the first 6 issues, and one of the things that both of us have just found really fascinating is how you kind of consolidate both endings of Army of Darkness. Can you talk us through like how you did that? Because it's such a good tightrope act, basically, and how playing with different timelines kind of allowed you to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was an idea that Dynamite came to me and asked if I wanted to write Army of Darkness. And I sat and thought about it for a while. And I thought about like what I might like to do with an Army of Darkness story. Because they didn't say like, do the sequel to Army of Darkness or anything. They just basically said, write it. It's the 30th anniversary. We want to do something special, but it's up to you. And so I asked them, I said, has anybody ever done what happens after the director's cut ending? And they said no. And the book's been going on for like 20, it's 30 years of the movie, but I think the book started coming out in like 2004. So it's been going on for like 20 years, in different miniseries and stuff. And nobody had done it. And I was like, that's so lucky, because it seems like such a, like, that's all I want to do now that I know that's available. Like, I want to do, because I think all of us have read those interviews with like Sam Raimi or Bruce Campbell. When they talk, they say like little tiny bits they would let out about like what they wanted to do. You know, they would say like, we were going to do like Ash versus the Techno Army of Darkness or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see that, you know, I want to, I wonder what that's about. And so that was where I started thinking about it. But as I started developing it, I was like, I had in my head, I wanted to do, it wasn't that recent that I had reread it, but I read the early part of Jason Aaron's Thor again, the God Bomb stuff. Do you guys know that?
Yeah. Yep.
It was what they made into that very bad Thor movie.
Yeah. Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Very, very good comics. And it's told in 3 different time periods. It's old man Thor, like at the end of the world, and he has like a destroyer arm and an eye patch like his dad. And then it's young Thor before he was even worthy. He couldn't pick up the hammer yet. And then it's like, you know, regular Thor, the one that we know that's in the Avengers. And so I thought about like, what could I do with this where I could do that sort of thing? And so then I think that's when the idea of like, oh shit, what if I told the story from where we leave old Ash, not old Ash, but like Beard Ash at the end of the director's cut ending.
Yeah.
And then I could still keep going from the regular ending and sort of explain how everything counts and everything works together. And that's when I got really excited about it. And then I started thinking about like, well, then we still want to go back to the medieval times because that's so important to Army of Darkness. So I figured like, all right, well, we'll get Sheila in there, because at the end of the movie, like the skeletons just run away and stuff, you know, like the Deadite, they just scatter into the woods once Bad Ash blows up. And so I was like, well, that's interesting too. You know, like somebody I'm sure would be like, oh, there's like a lot of demons out here still.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of how it came about. Like at first it was just the idea that nobody had followed up that ending and me wanting to see what that was about. And then the inspiration was just sort of a moment of inspiration where I was like, oh, it'd be cool if it all was the same storyline. Like if there's a way to do it in 3 different timelines, like Jason Aaron Thor, and make it so that it's all the same story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in just the first 6 issues, I can see like kind of where these are maybe gonna meet. Like I have my theories that are keeping me hooked in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on this series right now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited when I hear that, because this one, out of all my books, it's the one that's not creator owned, and so I feel like people are either, if they read it, they're not the kind of people that run and tell the creators that they liked it or not, or they're just, you know, not reading it. I have no idea what's going on with this book, so it's nice to hear that you guys dig it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as I like Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, like that's my franchise. Like Sam knows that very well. It's like that's my horror series, and to hear one that in all the years of doing Army of Darkness, the comic book, which I've read a few, that they never touched on that director's cut ending, and now here you are doing that ending while tying it into the actual theatrical ending, and how these stories are weaving together already, even as much as we've read so far, is, I mean, as a fan, it's like, yeah, this is exactly what I would want to see in a sequel going forward for these. And then did you talk to anyone who worked on Army of Darkness about their, like, hey, Sam, Bruce, what was your guys' idea? Did you talk to anyone that worked on the film?
No, I read every interview they ever gave where they talked about it, and I took notes on that stuff. That was as close as I feel like I was going to get. I could probably get to Sam Raimi if I tried, but I feel like for for how much I own of this book, that's not where I'm going to waste my Sam Raimi shot, you know, like.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I'm making calls to get put in touch with Sam Raimi, I'll make it be for one of my books, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, maybe
just pause for a minute and just show you this, because the way that my screen is, it looks like you're Sheila. You know?
It does. Oh my god,
It looks like that for you guys, but
that's hilarious. Yeah.
So if there's ever a live action adaptation of this comic, Sam should definitely play Sheila.
yeah.
I'll be Sheila. Yeah.
I think that lady's aged out. You can put a little bouffant in the front of your hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what Sam would use his call to Sam Raimi on, is he wants to play Sheila.
I want to play Sheila
in the movie.
Yeah. The badass Sheila. Well, when the first issue came out, that was really like the only response I heard to this book for the longest time. When the first issue came out, is people were just like, "Oh, here we go! It's a badass lady," you know.
They say that like it's a bad thing. Like,
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? She's already was very evil once, you know. Like, and we've seen her cry, you know. Let's see her get tough now.
Yeah, and also with Bruce Campbell, with Ash, it's like he's a buffoon. He's not the hero. And I think that's what people forget, is like, as much as he thinks he's the hero, he's not the hero of his own story.
That's what's really important. When I write him, is like, when I've seen it done where it doesn't ring true is when he is cool. He thinks he's cool, but he can't actually, you know, like if he gets to be cool, it's got to be a very important moments. It can't be, you know, you got to take it away from him almost every time otherwise, because if he actually succeeds in being cool, he sort of like becomes less Ash, less relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, people remember the stuff that, you know, groovy and all that, you know, but the thing that makes Ash is the slapstick moments and the pratfalls and the just in general being in over his head every time.
Also, like, saying groovy is the dorkiest thing you could ever say. I don't know why people think that's cool. It's so dorky. Because
most horror fans are dorks.
Well, yeah, but
yeah, it wasn't cool to say groovy back then. He was, you know,
yeah.
It was a lame ass thing to say. He just thought, you know, was cool in the moment.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So you get to go forward from the director's cut ending. You're setting one part of your comic, of your triple narrative, in 2093. Can you talk about creating the futuristic Evil Dead and the techno army of the dead? Because that's some of my favorite stuff in this comic. It's so cool, just visually, and yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of Justin Greenwood. I basically had, you know, there's only that one shot, you know, what does he say, like processed materials, or when he's coming out and he's saying, it's not processed materials, it's something, but it's just like there's a bunch of plastic junk and a bunch of like mechanical junk laying around, and then there's Big Ben toppled over, and you can see that there's some new building. There's like 2 new buildings that were built near Big Ben. So like sometime in between now and 2093, we know that there was some sort of technological advancement, right? And then, so that's what I'm able to pull from this. And so then I'm just like, all right, well, let's have some droids, and let's have them. You know what's funny is I write it in the script, and I don't know if we've ever even explained in the book. I don't think. But they're SMART droids. They're called like SMRT-01, SMRT-09. So like we assume that SMART became sort of like an Amazon, and then eventually they had like little droids. So much of this is like I have it in my head, and the book moves so fast that I feel like I'm oftentimes not getting it all in there. So I'll make sure to get that in before the ending. But yeah, I came up with the idea of these little spider droids, and I wanted there to be like sort of like Star Wars battle droids. And then I wanted there to be like evil droidites, you know, like droid deadites, who are like possessed droids. And then the rest of it is just like, you know, what sort of like robo junk there could be around in the future, and almost no other people in the future except for, you know, and he runs into Morlocks at one point, but the idea that he really is sort of like the last man on Earth was fun for me. So yeah, but Justin Greenwood, like I told him basically that, like, I want some Star Wars style battle droids. We want some that are like demons, you know. There's one, you know, like there's like a super droidite that's like the one that shoots shoots torpedoes that are ghosts or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just basically pitched all that stuff at him, and then he started designing stuff, and we went back and forth a little bit. And then at the same time, early on in the series, Nick Dragata was doing covers too, and he's friends with me and Justin, and so we had like a text chain going that was the three of us, and we would sort of like kick robot ideas back and forth because Nick's he loves like evil robots. He's like a real like manga head, and he likes designing like, you know, like satanic looking machines. So yeah, we had fun kicking that stuff back and forth a lot.
That rules.
Yeah.
So when you're you're in the writing process of this, way back at the beginning of this process, where do you go in terms of, hey, I need to make this not necessarily just an adaptation of the two endings of Army of Darkness, but I also need to expand that into comic book form. Did you find a balance of like, hey, this, I have to visualize this more as a comic book more, or more so, hey, I also need to focus on, hey, this is also technically Bruce Campbell in comic book form,
Yeah,
but now expanded upon.
Well, so I knew on the first issue, when I was outlining it, I always called that first issue like it's either the first issue or if it could be like a free comic book day issue. Like I always thought of it that as almost like a sampler, where it's like this is almost entirely just the movie, you know, like this catches people up because I wanted it to be something that people that didn't even watch Army of Darkness could read, you know, which is preposterous. Like who would do that? But on the off chance that somebody did, I wanted to be able to just pick it up, or like say they did watch it, you know, 20 years ago or something, they can read that first issue and go like, oh, right, I get it, you know. And so that one I knew was going to be a lot of rehash, like a lot of stuff that people had already seen. And all the Sheila stuff was new, but almost everything else was, and the last page was new, but everything else was basically a recap from the movie. And what was cool was that the movie, like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, have those recaps at the beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
So like that's sort of like cooked into the format of these things, is you can do a recap like that, and it doesn't seem jarring to somebody that's just like a hardcore Army of Darkness head, hopefully.
Yeah.
But as far as like what else to do, I mean, that's just, you know, a matter of like, you know, coming up with a story in the first place, right? Like I knew I needed there to, like Ash to be on a quest, and I knew I wanted him to talk to like the robot wise man, like the hologram wise man, and I knew like where that was all headed. And so and then I knew about when Ash says the magic words at the end of issue 6, I knew what was happening there, and that becomes a much bigger deal in the second arc. So I had all that stuff, and then it was just a matter of like, all right, well, that happens at the middle of the story, that happens at the end of the first arc, and so like let's figure out what happens to get us there. And so it's just about building, you know, missions for him to go on and bad things to happen to him, and Sheila goes through so much and bad things happen to her, and just trying to figure out like ways to get them like to not just do like mission, but also like find ways to get emotion in there and find ways to get like jokes in there, and, you know, the unexpected stuff. And also I really wanted to make it gorier than the movie was, which the publisher pushed back on when I first said it. But then because the artists that I got on it are sort of cartoony, we sort of get away with it a little bit, because like every Evil Dead besides Army of Darkness is disgusting, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Army of Darkness has like a couple bits, you know, like there's that like tornado of blood that shoots out of that pit, and there's a couple gross moments, but for the most part it's almost like a G-rated film, you know.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to push that and sort of like make it the movie I wanted it to be. You know, like the sequel to this thing, I want it to be like the grossest, most hardcore, you know, that is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I think you nailed that target. It's great. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it could always be grosser for me, but we get away with a bunch. So that I have fun with it, and I like just being able to unexpectedly off people or turn them into deadites, or it's been fun.
Yeah. So when you're you're writing these, but you're also a visual artist yourself. How much input do you have in the visual art of a comic you're writing, and does that vary with something like Army of Darkness Forever versus something that you're maybe a little more hands-on ownership with on like Stray Dogs and Feral, that type of thing?
Yeah, on Stray Dogs and Feral, I do the thumbnails on them. Basically, like quick storyboards.
Okay.
And then on Stray Dogs, Tone Rodriguez would do the layouts from there, and on Feral, he does the backgrounds from there. He just sort of takes my quick little chicken scratch and turns them into, here, I can show you, turns them into like detailed, pages. But like that's like a thumbnail, right?
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Just some shapes, you get an idea of what's in the thing, but it doesn't have to be super, the perspective doesn't have to be right, and it doesn't have to all work. So those I'm very involved in, like what the pages look like and stuff. On Army of Darkness, the difference between like comics and screenplays is that comics, you write what happens in every panel, like right, page 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, whatever. And then you say like, this is a close-up shot, this is a medium shot, this, whatever. Sometimes I do, not everybody does. Some artists don't like it. I'm just figuring it out from my own. But I do, this is a close-up shot, this is a medium shot. And sometimes if it's really important to me that like all of the panels on this page are horizontals that go all the way across the panel, like they go all the way across the page, I'll denote that. So like it all happens in the writing on Army of Darkness, because the artists from there will take it and just do their own layouts and do their own, they'll break the page down however they think is best. And that works out good for this book. And that's the same way it is on my book Uncanny Valley that's coming out through Boom. Like that one, I just write the script and then the artist breaks everything down and does everything from there. So yeah, it's different from book to book. But on Army of Darkness, I also draw covers.
Yeah.
So there's like another level of sort of like me putting my visual stamp on it.
Yeah.
That one.
Your cover of
arts
issue
are incredible.
6 is like one of my favorite.
Oh, the Necronomicon one?
Yeah, I just love that one. Casey was with me when I found that one at the shop actually, and I got really giddy.
Yeah. I tried on the first arc to do because it was also happening when I still am super busy, but I was super, super busy at the time when I was doing that first arc. And so all the covers are like close-ups, but I thought like, let's figure out a way to do these close-up and make them like a cool, like colorway, like cool lighting, figure out a cool way to do close-ups. And then the second arc, they're not close-ups anymore. But I'm still trying to do like each one of them be like a pretty, iconic shot. I just turned in issue 10, I think. So I've got 1, 2, 3 more to go. So we'll see if I've been happy with most of them. So we'll be happy. I'll see if I can keep it rolling.
That's awesome.
I also love going back to Feral and Stray Dogs, the cover art of those, especially incorporating movie posters, horror movie posters specifically. Yeah. What's the process of like, hey, this is the movie poster we're gonna do. Like we're gonna do Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, or we're gonna do Demons, or we're gonna do Dawn of the Dead. What's the process of like, these are the horror movies fitting with either Stray Dogs or Feral?
Well, it depends. Like early on, it's a lot more about whether or not it fits, and then as we get further into it, it's just like, is it a horror movie? And so that's like the process early on for Feral is like, all right, what are great zombie movies? What are great cat horror movies? Let's do all that stuff. But then as it goes on, it's like, all right, well, we like Megan. Let's do a Megan cover, and then it just becomes sort of like me getting to celebrate the movies I like. So like on Stray Dogs, like, yeah, when we did the Demons one, that has nothing to do with the plot of Stray Dogs, but I just love demons.
Yeah.
And so, or like, we did one for Audition, or we did one for like Midsummer, and that was just stuff that I was just like, I love these movies. Let's do, let's put a dog on them. And so early on we're doing, zombie stuff, cat stuff, and then just like stuff that's very popular that we hadn't got to yet. Like we hadn't done any Nightmare on Elm Streets, and so issue 2 of Farrell's Nightmare on Elm Street cover, and yeah, so it just depends on how we're feeling on the day, whichever one we end up doing. But there's a lot of zombies in the first batch. Obviously, the first one is all 3 Romero movies. Like we did the B covers, Dawn of the Dead, and then there's like a 1 in 50 you can get Day of the Dead, and then if you buy 1 in 100 you can get the Night of the Living Dead. So it's like if somebody has the whole trilogy, they're a super fan. God bless.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the way they get made is basically I just take a poster and I will put it on like I'll format it and send it over to Trish, and then she'll draw all the cats in or the dogs in on Stray Dogs. And then she'll send it back to me and it'll be pencils, and then I'll print that out and ink it. And then I'll color it and do the design and stuff like that. I've got like a real exacting eye for ripping off designs, like making sure the logos are right and stuff. We do it on Local Man too, my other image book, where we do like these Image Comics covers, and on every one of those, like the design for the logos has to be exactly right, otherwise it'll just bother me for my whole life.
Is there a movie you haven't done the poster of yet that you were like, I need to do this at some point?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a bunch of them. We have like a folder with just like a bunch of them that we're working our way through. But I don't know what's going to be. I don't know what we're coming back with issue 6 for. We haven't had to do those covers yet. I know I want to do May at some point. I love that movie and I love that poster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a bunch. Like whenever I think of one, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. We're working on one just in case there's a second printing. We've never done Halloween yet. And then I'm just like, I don't think we've done any of the Halloweens except Season of the Witch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So then it's like, all right, well, there's a ton of Halloweens we could do. So then I'm thinking like, well, maybe, okay. Then I get in my head, if it's the first printing, or if it's like the second printing of the first issue is Halloween, do I just keep that going and then just keep doing Halloweens, or will people get bored and give up? If it's like third printing is Halloween 4 or whatever. I get in my head about shit like that, but mainly it's just like what feels cool on the day. We have a bunch of them set aside that we're going to get to, and then I'll look and see what's in the folder, what we haven't got to yet.
I know mutual friend Nick Simon likes The Uninvited, which is a cat horror movie, and he plans to make an Uninvited Feral cover.
I don't know what that poster looks like. Hold on.
It's a wild movie. Have you seen it?
Killer cat on a yacht.
On a yacht.
Really? No, I don't know it.
Well, maybe it's just called Uninvited, not The Uninvited.
The Uninvited 2009. That's there we go.
There we go. Yeah, just Uninvited.
Yeah.
Oh. Hell yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Solid poster. I love this one. So yeah.
Man, what a nightmare, that cat's mouth.
Yeah. Our buddy Nick would definitely appreciate it. He we had him on a SuperCon show leading up to SuperCon last year, and he had just watched it and he brought it up like 3 times in the live stream.
Way into it, huh?
Yeah.
All right, here's what we got for variant covers. Cat's Eye, obviously.
Yeah.
The Fulci, the Black Cat, Cat of Nine Tails. We got a Shaun of the Dead that we're gonna do. We did a Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. That's gonna be on issue 5.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll probably get to the Walking Dead, the AMC stuff, and the comics. The Crazies for sure.
Yeah.
Cabin Fever, Evil Dead remake, Zombie 2. We just haven't done that one because it's such a fucking complicated drawing.
Yeah.
That's one that will take days and days to put together.
Yeah.
Like I said, May. What else we got? Yeah, those are the ones that we've got in the hopper right now that we'll get to. But yeah, it'll just be like we're working on something, and then we realize we have a cover up, so we'll go to our folder of homage posters that we got to do, and we'll knock one out. That's how it usually goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
I love all those posters, and I love seeing all those different covers you guys come up with. It's so much fun to just see, like, hey, this is what's next, and this is like, oh my god, like, who would do a poster of demons? Like, no one knows this movie. Like, comic book fans probably don't know this movie, but it's so good.
That's the one that most people respond to, because if you do love it,
yeah,
and you're so psyched to see somebody put it out there, like I've had more people say that they love the demons poster or the demons cover than any of the other ones, because you're just like, holy shit,
someone knows this movie.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, I'm gonna wrap this up with one more question for Tony.
Sounds good.
It's one of my favorite questions to ask. I'm trying to think of a spin to put on it, and I think I'm just going to make it pretty straightforward. Tony, if people are going to, they're going to read Stray Dogs, they're going to read Feral, they're going to read Army of Darkness Forever, and they're like, God, I love this writing work of Tony Fleecs. What 2 movies would you suggest to them as like, hey, this is Tony's ultimate double feature to watch?
Oh man. Like that, like they'll watch it and they'll go like, "Oh, I get it. I see."
Yeah, those feel like Tony movies. After
they're my mom and dad, but movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody has those.
Man,
that's the best way to describe it.
Two horror movies. We'll keep it at horror because we're
horror movies.
Horror podcast. Yeah.
I think, man, Torso?
Uh-huh.
The Giallo Torso?
Yep.
I don't think I know that one.
Man, that one, it's brutal, and it has this incredible twist moment that I love so much, that I try to do all the time whenever I surprise people with violence or with heartbreak or whatever. I think about this moment in Torso where this girl just wakes up and everyone's dead. It's an Italian movie. It's is it Sergio Martino?
Yep, Sergio Martino.
Yeah, super good. Is it Susie Kendall that's in it?
Yep, Susie Kendall.
Yeah,
as Jane.
Yeah, Torso rules. And Shaun of the Dead.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
I love Shaun of the Dead I love just the way that it uses all the parts of a zombie story and makes it a story about relationships and about it takes what good horror movies do and also makes it like super evident, where like a pedestrian could see what was going on, that you don't have to look too close to see like, so it almost is like horror for dummies, right? Like you see it and you go like, it's not just about these flesh-eating ghouls. It's also about, what happens when you're growing up and somebody else isn't growing up. And, Sean in that movie to his girlfriend feels like a child, but to him, Ed feels like a child. And to his mother, they all, it all fits together, and it's all sort of about, the death and the there's layers and layers in that movie, and I love that about it. And also it's just funny, and then also it's fucking scary,
Yeah.
and it has great moments, and it has like like when the jukebox kicks on in the final scene, it's like this triumphant moment, and you're just excited about it. So I like that. Has a lot of stuff that I try to do in my stuff. I like to do set up and knock it down stuff like they do, where they just like say something in the beginning of the movie and it's going to happen at the end. So yeah, those two probably. Torso obviously way more obscure, but it definitely has the stuff that I try to do in it, and it has great moments. It also has some dumb stuff, but it's also very gory.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I'm definitely putting Torso on my watch list.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one that I would put on there. If it was 3, if I had 2 dads, and that's also obscure. Like if I put two obscure ones together, it'll make a popular one. Do you know The Sadist?
No.
Archibald Jr. All right, so it's like a pre-Badlands, pre-Natural Born Killers type movie. And it's black and white, and it stars this guy Archibald Jr. who, like, I think he had like a rich dad who was trying to make him a movie star, but he just looks like a monster. And he's like it's Badlands, like it's that story, those killers, the guy and his sort of like quiet girlfriend who run around and kill people. And it's the same way. It's like surprising and personal and frightening. Recommended.
Awesome.
Yeah, adding that to the list.
Yeah,
I bet both of those are free on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Torso is on Tubi, it looks like, and The Sadist is potentially.
When I saw it was like a something weird video. I think it was like I can't remember that guy, like Uncle Ghoulie or something. I don't know. One of these.
Oh, Svengoolie?
No, it wasn't Svengoolie. It was like one of these guys that presents things,
Okay.
But yeah, it's been on a ton of different cheap DVDs and stuff. So I assume it's on one of these cheap streamers too.
Yeah, both of them are on Tubi, it looks like.
Tubi
always coming in for the win.
Yep.
We love Tubi. That's awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Tony. This was so much fun, man.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you for having me on. Check out Feral in stores now. Issues. Oh, we didn't talk. Army of Darkness number 7. Army of Darkness Forever number 7. The next one to come out. Brand new artist. Justin Greenwood could only sign up for the first 6. So this guy Pop Man, who did these comics when I was a kid for Extreme Studios that I loved. He did this story called Christian that was sort of like a Chris Bachalo / Jason Pearson body bags type story about it was like a quintessentially 90s girl with like Jinko style jeans on and shell toes, and she gets violent interactions with people. Of course she's like a pretty blonde girl, but she has she wears like urban clothes. And then he also drew like Union for Wildstorm and a bunch of stuff, and he's done a ton of stuff at Dark Horse, and but he's coming on to take over the art duties. Awesome. And the issues, I think issue 6 was also cardstock cover, but they're all going to cardstock covers now. And it's 6 more issues until the end of the story, and then top secret, but we're going to do like a big special at the very end too. So there's lots more Army of Darkness coming if you guys are hardcore Army of Darkness fans.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're so glad to hear that. We'd heard misinformation that it was ending after 6 issues, so we were both really excited when we got the end of issue 6, and
would be a crazy place to
issue
end.
7 was well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, getting towards the end of the book, I'm like, there's no way they're wrapping it up this quick, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw that there was going to be an issue 7. I texted Casey right away. I'm like, oh, don't worry,
there's more.
Yeah, there will be an issue 7 and 8, and I have to finish writing issue 9 right now. Actually, after we get off the call, I got to get back into it. So
nice,
lots more.
Awesome.
Well, Tony, thank you again. Like, this is awesome. Yeah. We'll see you again, hopefully soon here in Sioux Falls, in person. But thank you again, and people, go check out Army of Darkness Forever, Feral, and anything else Tony's got cooking.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.